Hi there! Thanks for joining me today. I hope you'll stick around with me today and paint these festive Christmas tree lights. Today I'm using, from left to right, my size 8 and size 6 Intuition round brushes by Artegria. I'm using my black Tombow Monotwin. I'll be using the 0.8mm end. And I have my MeiLiang watercolor palette, a dish of water, my ceramic palette, and a cloth for dabbing up any puddles or mistakes. And I'm using my 300 GSM watercolor paper by B Paper Company. I want to show you how super duper fun this is. It has all these metallic details that are just wonderful, and it's so fun to do and so gratifying to see when it's done. Let's get started. So I want to start today with this really great idea for a very simple Christmas light watercolor. Anyone can do this, and I really want to emphasize that drawing is not my thing. And if you look at my little bulbs here, none of them are perfect, and certainly there are areas where this one is a little too pointy or maybe not rounded enough, and this one is pointy. And the big point I want to make is that this is really forgiving, especially since you're going to be using some white gel pen for outlining this once it's all done. And because of that, it is really going to be so forgiving, and these little things that you might consider imperfections, or that I in my own painting might consider imperfections, really aren't. And it's super fun to do and super easy. So what I want to do is I want to start with my paper somewhat wet. I'm just going to mist that. Now what I do, because my spray bottle can be kind of erratic, I spray first onto a towel that's on my lap, and then I just give this some mist, and you can tell it's done a good job because it's started curling a bit. You can tape this down if you like. I just don't really care. Yes, one of the reasons to tape down is that you won't get your puddles of pigment on the edges, but I actually don't tend to mind that. I think it can look kind of neat, so it doesn't bother me. But I'm going to start with my olive green, and I'm going to be using just some different greens so that I get some different tones and some different, some depth and all that. And I'm just going to go from almost this top corner down just to about there, and I'm going to make this one pine tree branch. Because this is wet, it's going to just some of that pigment is going to catch and bleed. I want to work kind of quickly as I'm getting closer to the top of this. I want to be sure that I'm making these branches a bit longer, and just kind of coming back up here with some of this pigment. And it's okay if some of this bleeds into these light bulbs as well, because you can kind of see through the light bulbs to some extent. You might be able to. And so it's really fine if it does. I have a piece of plastic on hand so that if I need to mist my paper again, I can cover any areas that I don't want to bleed too much. Now I'm going to come back in that center and just I'm going to kind of take this same pigment and just kind of brush some pine needles. And I want to kind of try to prevent from having those too matchy, too predictable, going all the same, direction. And sometimes going over these lights, now I'm kind of avoiding that, and I may come back and do more of these after I've done the lights. This is just an idea that I've had, and I haven't tried it before this. So, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I think it's going to be fun and cute. And then I think I'd like to take maybe some of this deep Hokker's green and just go in that a bit. Yeah, I like that blend. I also like to vary up how I'm brushing in those pine needles somewhat. Now the center of this has stayed really wet, so it's kind of going to just bleh in there, I feel like. And that's okay. We'll just see what we get, won't we? Okay, I'm going to want to spray this some more. My trusty little sheet of plastic here. Let's see. And you'll see I'm not laying this touching my painting, but rather just covering it. Just keep that handy. Okay, go back with that olive green. And how about we start right here? The idea is just that this is just, you know, all of those branches coming off of a tree, and here the lights just kind of weaving around there. And this is just to give it some background. So all of that misting it and letting it do that is just kind of to give some depth and some looseness to this. And now let's go into that deep Hocker's green. I got a little bit heavy in there, but I'm not going to worry about that. This is quite a bit more, a deeper, darker value than I had on the other one, but that's okay. You see some variety of that in your tree, maybe. It doesn't hurt for there to be. And remember, this doesn't have to be super realistic either. In fact, I do not go for a realistic look here. You may do as you wish. And then I'll go back with this olive green. So fun. And I like that these, you know, these colors just kind of blend together. And I think just for a little bit more definition up here, just because I have so much more definition there, I want to go back with some of probably both of these colors. Just, it's not quite so wet. Yeah, I like that. And listen, don't worry if your pine needles kind of go over the center of that branch. That is okay. It's, nobody is going to look that hard at this piece. Again, you're not going for necessarily the most realistic. You don't have to anyway. And there's a lot of water down here and it's kind of gone to blur and I kind of love it. So, you know, I may go over that with a little more a few more of those needles and strokes there, but for now I'm actually really happy with that. It's cute. So I'm going to keep doing this, and we're just going to make, you know, branches and needles where we need them, and just having fun with it. And then we'll come back and do those bulbs. And so you could probably do this without doing it wet on wet if you liked. I'm pretty happy with this look, so I think I'm going to stick with the wet on wet. Let's see. I may just kind of give this a spray in that direction and try to avoid what I have here rather than getting another piece of plastic out. And I think I did okay. Could use maybe a little more. I don't really want puddles like this, and see, I'm getting some bleeding now. I don't mind that. But I feel like I'll take so much of that pigment. So I'm just kind of blotting below where it started to bleed. I love that. So I'm actually thinking that I'll try to strategically use that as I go. Now this one is so wet that I'm not having to be so light and loose about all of that, all of my background detail. But I will kind of go and give that some dotting and dashing. It's kind of what I do for my trees. Well, it's definitely what I do for my trees when I'm doing more of a landscape look, or but I like that it gives it that just really loose background. I started to go into my emerald green there. That might have been a mistake. It's just right there beside the green that I wanted. So obviously this is real wet. So I'm just putting some of these in here, and I'll let it kind of meld together. This is so fun. My goodness. I absolutely will utilize the spray bottle to soften some of this up. Some of these areas where where the branches kind of intermingle. This has quite a bit of water in it. So it may have kind of a different look than the other branches, and that is okay. I love how nice and soft that is. So more olive. Let's see, how about something kind of this way? Could even kind of be going behind that. And as I've gone, I have preferred this, you know, just doing the needles rather than this other little dotty stuff. And so that's kind of just what I'm doing here. I love these tones together. And then I'm just gonna like let my heart lead right here and give some little sprays to soften a bit. And see what happens. I'm just going to kind of let it go. And then if I want to, I can push some pigment just with my brush, you know, just to kind of loosen some of that up. And we'll just see how that goes. I lost so much detail here because it was so wet. So I'm just going back and putting in more of these needles. Try to kind of vary them up because I like for them to be, you know, loose and a little more random, arbitrary. And I find that that kind of gives it some really nice depth. And how about some more of that deep Hoker's green up here? I feel like this will also need quite a bit of olive. Not worrying about any of these strokes that aren't just absolutely perfect because, I don't know, y'all, I was decorating my tree today and it's an artificial tree, but it just looks better the more random and not perfect the branches are, I think. So that's just me. And how about some more olive in this? I do love that just quite misty look in that. And kind of wish all of these had a bit more of that watery background, but it's really okay. Okay, now just some areas where I need some fill, kind of, you know, just get some needles kind of in those areas. Just like in a tree, you know, you'd see some places that are just maybe kind of in the background. They're not really the focus branches, you know. Yes, I love it. So fun. Just adjust this a little bit. Okay. And how about a little bit of that Hokker's green? We are going to see what happens when we do these lights. My hope is that it doesn't just turn into a, a messy blob of colors just bleeding together. But I haven't done it yet, so I'm not entirely positive what we're going to get. And you'll see these have quite a different look than those earlier ones we did because of working wet on wet. And you can kind of just decide, if you like one better than the other. What I'm going to go back and do is add more olive with a bit of water and just loosen this stuff up with this watery olive brush. And then maybe just kind of brushing water itself. So using several techniques here just to play with it and, see what you like. There's not a right way. This is about you being creative and creating, really, without fear, without worrying about it being perfect. And then brushing just some water. And that's going to loosen those up really nicely, I think. I hope. You can kind of go into that and brush again with your brush that doesn't have any paint on it but isn't necessarily watery, to kind of push at that pigment. And I love that. I think that's perfectly the background that I want. And so now I want to go in and I want to start working where it's maybe most dry and start working on these lights. And I don't know about you, but I love just colorful lights. Now on my tree, it's white. But, on this, I'm thinking a whole bunch of colors. So I'm just going to fill and maybe slightly, see, now I don't know. I'm going to blot that and let that dry, because I feel like you'd get a little bit of glow on the outsides of those lights. And so I kind of want to extend the paint just outside the lights. But right now I'm kind of thinking no. So I think I'm just going to go inside the bulbs. I'm not going to worry about that green. Okay, let's do red for this first one. I'm kind of thinking Scarlet. It's a nice red. I tend to like the magenta. And then let's just drop this in here and kind of swirl it. So I painted that with water first, and I'm going to let that kind of sit there for a moment because I'm going to come back with a little bit of water and just kind of brush into it to kind of move the pigment a little. Okay, let's do this one. And you know, you don't have to fill the entire thing with pigment. Okay, let's go ahead and go back up into this and just take the water that's there. See how I just kind of brushed up that side, and now it just kind of has a natural highlight and a shadow. Let's do orange in this. And I like this cadmium orange, I think, for this. See, just kind of outlining in that pigment, allowing for some natural highlights and shadows. Okay, how about yellow up here? And if you have too much water, you can kind of drag that off with your brush, with your with the side of your jar. And I think I like cadmium yellow for this. And so you're just kind of pushing some of this pigment around there. And you can kind of leave it like that, or as this starts to dry, you can do like this and just kind of push some of the pigment to fill. This is where I need a little more color theory because I need to know what to do right here. And I'm inclined to kind of do maybe a purple. Maybe I should do a pink. This doesn't all have to be, I wanted to say primary-ish. That's not going to be right because orange is not primary, but I think purple. Let's do fresh purple. Now this is quite a purple, so I may do Dioxazine violet. It's not quite as loud. Yeah, I think that's the one. Just brush that in, kind of let it set. I'm looking at that orange and yellow. I'm rinsing my brush and blotting it a little, and then just taking this up like that. And see, I've left that little white. I like that. I think it kind of lends to that, the look of a light bulb. Just very easy, very simple. A little blending here. Okay, how about some kind of blue here? Almost should do green. I have so much green in this, but I think blue will be fine. I think I will use this turkey blue. Oh, it's going to be bright. Could use Prussian blue. Okay. Oh, I like it. Let's get quite a bit here. And just bring that around. And see, you could so easily just kind of leave it like that. You don't really have to come back and mess with it, but you know, it's just whatever you feel like. It's whatever you feel like doing. It really does give that nice look of light in there. It's so easy. I'm going to kind of touch up this blue here and maybe put a bit more of this pigment into it. We'll just see if it needs it. Okay, we may have to do a blue that's going at that same angle, but I think that's okay. Okay, just so I don't forget, let's do this one blue. I started to go immediately into my red just because I had that in my head. Okay, this is that turkey blue. It's kind of a nice peacock blue. Such a fun technique. May drop a bit of that back in here too. Okay, how about red? This is that Scarlet. And yellow. This is that cadmium yellow. Oh, that's so fun to put that in when it's so wet. Okay, and how about purple here? And then orange for that last one. That works for me. This is that Dioxazine violet. I'm just kind of blending this little hard edge in there. I don't think I had to, but I thought it would look better, a little more blended. And this, I'm just going to kind of drag some of this pigment down. And then I think I'll add a bit more Scarlet into here. I may even blot a little of that just to get a better highlight in it. Then just kind of blend that and go back with a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go in this yellow before it all dries. We're going to put orange in this very last one. Cadmium Orange is what I used for the first one. So fun. I really did use a bit too much water in those first couple that I did to do over. I would love to do a whole set of these like this. I just think that's really fun. And, you know, I might push more pigment out into the center, but just, you know, let it just kind of bleed and see what you get. Those are really, really fun. And then, even though this is wet, I think we really can start on the next step, which for me would be to use my silver gel pen. This is just a Sigma Uniball, and I think it's a 1. I just tend to like that thickness. I like how it writes. But I'm just going to trace over the wire. So just this. Now, I'm going to be careful of where I still have wet areas because I don't want to smear those or, you know, affect the texture. And so if you like, you can certainly let this dry and then come back. And I would like that too, but I'm impatient. And I actually want to churn this so that I really can work on this and have good, you know, a nice relaxed situation. I'd like to have a nice relaxed situation with my wrist and my hand. So I'm moving off my palettes and even my dish of water. I'm just moving everything out of the way. That might make me hold my pen awkwardly so that I can work on this kind of unimpeded. I'm just holding down where I have greenery. Now I think I like it when my gel pen does not entirely cover the black. I like for it to show a little bit. And I think that's good because you can be much more relaxed about it. I'm also going to be filling in somewhat these white areas, the tops of the bulbs with silver. And again, not trying to get them perfectly. Now the silver does stay kind of wet, so just be aware of that. Because you don't want to touch it and smear it. Or maybe you do. That can be fun. Okay, and if you come up to an area where you can't really rest your hand well because you have pigment or ink that's wet and you just really can't do it, let it dry and come back. Don't be silly like me and impatient. Because I'm kind of shaky. I know this about myself. And see, because of that, I have this little whoop. But remember that we're not going to be perfectionist about this. No one is going to notice that except for me and you because you saw me do it. But isn't this fun and simple? Everyone could do this. I love that you could sit down with your kids and do this. You could make this design for Christmas cards. Little gift tags. You could do one little branch and, you know, however many, just 1 or 2 lights. And wait till you see this in the light because it's so fun. The metallic really does give it a nice look. And could you use your metallics watercolor palette? Absolutely. I just like how much, just how really metallic, seriously metallic this metallic pen is. So that's why I made that choice. And I'll come back for one more thing. We're going to outline these bulbs in white. That's something I was going to do real quick with my black, and it's silly, and I don't need to do it, but I felt like I needed to go a little more off the page with this black right there. Such a nitpicky, silly little thing. Okay. I think I'll just work. Oh, one thing I do like to do anytime with these gel pens is on a scratch piece of paper, I like to scribble, you know, a little test of that to be sure that it's marking well, because you don't want to be, you know, working on some part of your painting and then suddenly it's not working. And now just do this the same. You're just going to outline these bulbs. I don't mind, for mine, I don't mind if they're not completely outlined. And you can see I did a similar painting, neurographic style, and you can see where I didn't always connect every line. I felt like, I don't know why, I liked that. And I just kind of felt it in the moment, and so I'll probably do similar to that. You could fully outline them. I just thought, for some reason, I felt like that gave it more of an electric look or something. I don't know. But that's what I did. I also am not bothered by variations in the thickness of this ink very much. So you'll see me not really care about whether the lines all match. Or sometimes with these gel pens, you'll notice there will be kind of almost a scratch mark in them. And that just doesn't bother me. I feel like I get a little bit more texture. See, like that right there? And so I like it. Also, this is where you really can make a difference if you have shaped something, you know, this little point. When I get to that, if I think of it, I can just make sure and really exaggerate the roundness there. But that's one of the things that really does that is really flexible or just fudgeable with these gel pens and with doing this technique. And see, I can kind of round that off a bit more, sort of. And then you can just kind of decide where your highlight would be. You know, they don't all have to be in the upper right corner of the bulb itself, but maybe all kind of orienting a certain direction and area. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're trying. I'm going to give my paper a little bend. It's dry enough, and just going to kind of flatten that out a bit. Oh my goodness, I'm happy with this. So fun. And you could even do little like rays, you know, little light rays if you liked. Let's see how I just kind of smooth that out with the curve of my gel pen. And you would never know it was causing me such grief. Oh goodness, that's a little messy, but that's okay. Just kind of scratchy looking. I think the tips on the white get a little messy. And I've also found that these white gel pens, for me, I don't know why, but they do kind of, they seem to dry out a bit faster. Oh, I love that. Pretty much exactly what I wanted, and honestly, happier than I expected to be just trying something out, you know. You can't always predict how that's going to go, and it's, you know, it is sometimes um it's not always, all the ideas are not always winners, and so, you know, I will try something that I have in my mind, and I'll record it just in case it's a great idea, and I love it when it works out. I feel like face no, I feel like George Papard. I cannot remember his character's name in the A Team, but he loves it when a plan comes together. Uh, I'll think of it. I know some of you will not know that reference, and that's okay. My kids know it because we watch a lot of classic TV. And just adding a, you know, few pine needles here and there. And then maybe even trying to loosen this one up a little bit more, just because this neighbor here, these neighbors are so loose. But I really do love it. I'm so happy with it. And I would love to know what you think. Please leave a comment. Please let me know if you try it, and maybe especially if you are doing this with any of the kids in your life. I would love to know if they enjoyed it as well. And as always, happy painting.